How are you? Good, how are you? Good.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Monday, March 10th, 2025. This is the meeting of the Providence Recreational Advisory Board meeting. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Chairman Simon,
Present.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Present.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Present.
Jenna Lafayette, present. Kenneth Phillips is absent. We have 4 present and 1 absent. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. We are here at the John Rollins Recreation Center. And actually, I always get confused. John Rollins Recreation Center, South Providence Recreation Center. There's
It's
like
the
2 names on the
same
building.
thing.
I know, but yeah.
Mhm.
So when do you use what name when?
So we always use John Rollins because it was renamed in 2015.
Got it. All right, so here we have John Rollins Recreation Center. And we are joined by Nasha, who is the director here. So we thank you for joining us today. And as always, we are joined by Stephen Grace, who is the director of recreation. So for today, we have not as packed an agenda as we normally have. I wanted to leave some time to start talking about the budget. You know, as we know, one of our responsibilities as a board is to advise on the budget and the finances of the rec department. So after we have a presentation from Nasha around all the programming and some of the data and the numbers around the Rollins Recreation Center, we're going to dive into starting to talk about the current year's budget and then some of the general priorities around what we want to be looking at for fiscal year 26. And so we'll dive into all that after, but right now we are grateful that Nasha is here. And let me just start off by saying, you know, we have travel around to all the rec centers when we host these meetings. And we want to start by just saying thank you for all the work that you do. We know it's a lot of work and truly impact the lives of thousands of kids every year who come through these doors. And so we are grateful for all you do for the city and for the rec center and the department and the youth. I have been fortunate enough to come here for my son's basketball games and to play here a bunch and you have a great center here and you do a great job. So thank you for all that you do and for all you do for the kids. And I will turn it over to you and Stephen to read the presentation about John Rollins.
This is gonna be Nasha, obviously. She's been a great director and in my short time here, has been very vocal with me, with, you know, things that are gonna make this center great. So she's passionate. She wants to make sure that these kids have everything that they deserve. And so it's been reflected in some of the things that she's been able to accomplish. And even, like I said, just in the short 2 years with my perspective and how like we can grow together. So it's been really cool to work with her. So I'll hand it over to her to kind of start us off here. But our agenda today, Rollins, and then like the chair said, budget and then public comment. And so I'll hand it over to Nasha.
Okay, so as you can see, this is the community room. So here in this room, we typically gather, we'll have either events, we feed the kids because we have a meals program. So when the kids come directly after school, we give them dinner, even though it's like considered a snack. And then around 5 o'clock, 5:30, they get another meal. So we feed them twice, and in this room as well, they're able to do their homework. And once the gym is able to, once we have access to the gym, because the school utilizes our gym for arrival and dismissal, we kind of separate the kids. So some kids may want to do some board games, some more intimate play in the game room, and then some kids just want to run around, play basketball, within the gym. So typically, pretty much from September to June, we have an after-school program that I've been able to really tap into my relationship with Youngwoods Elementary School. Because prior to me becoming the assistant director, now I'm the director under Mr. Cedric, the relationship was kind of wonky, and I would say like we should be getting more kids. So I think I've done a pretty good job with tapping into building a relationship with the principals, along with the the staff, whether it's the gym teachers, the janitors. I think we've been able to really build to the point where I can go to the school and have presentations with the kids. They know me, I know them on a first name basis, so it's not a stranger coming into their space. They know Miss Nasha, hey, how you doing? So I think our after school program has grown tremendously within the last like 4 or 5 years. As some you can hear, we have basketball. We have one of the biggest gyms, so it attracts not only the youth, but adults within the community. So pretty much every day we have basketball here. And the bulk of our rentals, adult rentals are basketball for adults, whether they're 40 plus, 21 plus, 18 plus, but also we're a hub for tournaments, whether it's community members, charter schools, regular schools, whether they're middle school or high school. Before COVID, we were one of the rec centers that actually hosted the middle school games, but due to the late bell schedule, we can't accommodate PPSD with that, but whenever we can, we always open our doors, whether it's the high schools or the Providence charter schools to host basketball games here. Mentorship programs, we've done really good too, not to brag, but our girls club, I feel like in terms of female engagement, since I've been here has gone up, but also we have a tremendous amount of girls in our girls program. That we've had a huge push all of the recreation department to increase female engagement, because for a long time, rec centers was male dominated, only for boys to go. There's not enough programming for the girls, so we do a good job. I hired more female staff from the ages that we're trying to target. So younger staff, in between staff, older staff, so that there's a good mix, so that we know what's going on and that we're current with a lot of the language or current issues. So one of the major issues that I encounter with our girls program is self-esteem, a lot of social media and how they view themselves outwardly. So we do a lot of work with self-esteem and making sure that they view themselves as beautiful here and that they can do whatever they want and just as much as the boys. But we also have, we implemented it a year ago, our boys mentorship program, which is literally mirrors our girls programming, so that they feel special too, because they're like, Miss Nasha, why do the girls get to have this one-on-one time? And why do you guys get like this quiet space? So we've been working on that and building that program up as well, and taking them out into the community and exposing them to things that's not just basketball, like conversations around hygiene, what it is to tap into some of their issues, but creating a safe space. So I kind of remove myself, but I give my staff enough tools so that they can take that on, so that they're building those concrete relationships with the boys. So if something's going on at home, or if they don't really have a male presence in the home, they know that they can come to my staff, they can text my staff, or whenever the next boys club, or even just linking up here and having that one-on-one time, they have the capacity to do that. And along with the mentorship program, we also have had partnerships outside in the community with the Wheeler School. So that was a good partnership that we had. So we would take some of our middle school kids and transport them over to the Wheeler School to get additional academic support. Art Club, that's a really big club that we have, because again, we try to have inclusive space where it's not just about basketball, baseball, anything sports, because the kids have changed. They want to do arts, they want to do music, they want to dance. So we try to create little pockets of different programming where they're able to shine, because again, like I said, not everybody wants to play in the gym or wants to play sports. Our garden club, that's a club that's near and dear to my heart, because I feel like kids have to be self-sufficient. We are in the middle of a food desert here on the south side. We have limited resources. The closest is the American Basket that was formerly known as Comparing Foods on Broad Street. So if you don't have a car, you have to walk there and the prices are pretty high along with the corner stores. Those are really expensive. Our closest grocery is Cranston, which is the price right, and then Stop and Shop, which is also in Cranston. That's in proximity. So if they learn how to grow their own food, that can help them out. You don't have to own your own home to grow your own food. You can do a makeshift within your house. So you try to teach them to grow food and they're able to eat it too.
And Nasha, what are some other things that you've done to address food insecurity? Just
Oh.
on your own at your center?
So addressing food insecurity, so we just recently, so I linked up, me and my staff, we came together and we cooked our own food to give back, just passing out hot food on Broad Street, on the west end, specifically Cranston Street, but also trying to create more partnerships within the community with the Rhode Island Food Bank. So my hope is that we can have a space that can address 18+. So whether it's once a month or every other week, given the state of inflation and everything that's going on, where families can come and pick up food whenever they want. And we've also connected with Archie Johnson from the Rosa Parks. I'm gonna butcher it. Can't remember the name of the organization, but he's on Prairie Avenue, but they have a plot of farming where we've been trying to get our kids to be able to grow food, because we have them over here on Broad Street, their plots of land where the community grows their own
gardens.
food.
Yeah.
So he has it, so we're gonna utilize that as well for our kids. And what else for food insecurity?
And how many kids generally participate in those, in the program?
For the community garden or garden club, I would say between 12 to 18, given I feel like we have more participation when it gets warmer.
Yeah.
Because they can see us outside, because sometimes we'll start the programming in here and then we move outside. So we're actually working on getting more garden beds, well, raised garden beds, so that we can plant more.
And then one other program I'd like you to talk about, because I know you're being humble.
We just,
Yeah.
hold on, just want to take one step back on that though, too, because I actually think it's an interesting area where you guys can partner with schools and some of the carpentry programs and whatnot. Do you partner with like PCTA or like Building Futures or anything like that?
So I do have a good relationship with Building Futures. So Mr. Robert Nyhoon, his son used to play for us, so we definitely have a relationship. But
Yeah.
I also work at the Met High School, so
Yeah.
I tap into my students like, hey, I have this project idea. And sometimes we'll do it through PVD design or Dow City design,
Yeah.
where we have the partnerships because we are in an open space where we can collaborate.
Yeah. But the raised beds in particular.
Yes.
It's probably like an easy project for them to do if you guys need more of them.
Absolutely.
Well, on that particular program, if you're thinking about doing like a once a month thing over here, let's connect offline, 'cause I'd like to be helpful with that too.
Absolutely, because
Here for that, for sure.
it's definitely a passion of mine regarding food insecurity, because we do a good job recreation citywide, where we have the meals program. So we have 11 recreation centers, so the kids get to eat, but I'm more of a macro and micro type of person, where we're only addressing the kids who come directly here. But what about if the mom and dad is working 2 or 3 jobs, they gotta eat too, but our program is only for 18 and under. So they should be able to get food. So that's why I try to connect with the Rhode Island Food Bank to see what we can do to address that specifically. The whole family.
There's food pantry to here? Is there a food pantry that's local here?
So that's what we're trying to create with the Rhode Island Food Bank,
Yeah.
by connecting with them, because we don't have a food bank on the lower South Providence area, which we're in right now.
Yeah,
So that's why they currently aren't taking any new applications, but because we're in the middle of a food desert and there's no food pantries, that's why they're giving us the opportunity So me and Director Stephen Grace will be meeting with Ms. Hope again to try to establish what we can do.
And I gotta say, she's done an excellent job. I think in our last meeting, we talked about how directors are gonna have goals and we're looking into expanding on what they could do. And so this was Nasha's self-identified goal. And she did the groundwork, identified the point of contact, establishing a meeting that we can go to be able to give support to this. So any help that like you guys can give to help her with this is gonna be great because
Yeah,
it's,
let's connect.
yeah, she definitely
I
gonna
do
do a good job. And then one other thing I'd have to recognize and just talk about Nasha is we're at the end, we finished our basketball season with few events that are happening right now, but you know, Nasha wasn't traditionally a basketball person. And what she's doing to grow her program to be competitive next year. I just want you to talk about some of the steps you took this year that are gonna pay off in the long run.
So like he said, I'm definitely not a basketball, I'm a girl's girl. That's why, the girls club is popping over here. But just really, as a female director, it's my own stuff that I deal with in terms of I should have a girls team because how does that look outside in the community when you have a female director but no female basketball teams? So again, I utilized my relationship with the school and really went to the school and did presentations with the school. And because the kids already know me, they're like, oh, I'm gonna grab a friend. And that's why right now, I have the largest 10U girls basketball team this year. And then also in terms of boys, we've really, really been stepping it up in terms of my staff, but reaching out to community leaders and community friends. So I brought in my childhood friend, Lamont Thomas. So he's really big in the community. And he's been a huge support with growing our basketball teams as well as just learning. I've really, really had to, take a step back and put my head in the game and really learn basketball. So learning plays, staying in practice, learning from the staff. So we've really been working hard as a team. And to see the growth from last year to this year has been tremendous in terms of the skill level, development, our team staying in and the kids still wanting to play. So I think that's really important.
When did you become the director in Nasha?
Ooh. I want to say in 2021, like officially the director, but I've been the assistant director since 2017.
Cool, so that's your special events and things that are almost specific. You already talked about Girls Club, but
Oh,
let's
okay.
talk about some of the other things that are there.
So, we did a Mother's Day brunch when I first became a director. So that was really cool. So I think, did you attend? I think you did, yeah, because we have a lot of pictures together. I think it was a cool event where it was an open event for all moms, but we did a bingo and I reached out to some community members just to donate some things. So we were able to raffle off and give off some things. And again, it was open to everybody. We had a few parents that, have housing challenges, so they were able to participate and their kids. So a mommy, daughter, Mother's Day brunch and OVs over here on Allen's Avenue provided the food for that. P3 movie night was awesome. All the kids in recreation was jam-packed in the gym. We had Venus Orbella, which is Joshua Orbella's wife. She provided the popcorn. It was a really cool night for everybody in the neighborhood. We have a lot of collaborations with Play for Peace, which is Lamont Thomas. So we have a lot of tournaments and AAU stuff that involve Play for Peace. Recently, which is stepping out of our comfort zone, PBD prep school dance, which was cool to see. it made me realize how old I am, because I'm like, this is different. These kids for a school dance, they really don't dance. They were more so in here eating food. And then you could hear the music and I'm like, where's the kids at? And then they were just, all huddled up in a circle. So that was interesting compared to some of our roots. So in comparison, this rec and Davy Lopes, back in the early 2000s, we would have rec parties. That was like, the thing to be at. So it was very interesting to see, and I'm open to, hosting a few more school dances to see what comes out of that. We hosted the West End Intruders Banquet because just a little bit of history. We were the hub for the Southside Saints originally. And then they moved to Davy Lopes. And the West End Intruders wasn't really a thing with Southside Saints. We occupied the classical field. So then I guess the organization disintegrated and then the Southside Saints became the West End Intruders. But we originally always had the banquets here, so it wasn't so far-fetched for me to be like, absolutely, our doors are open, you could definitely host your banquet here. It was a full circle movement. And we also host their cheerleaders, so if it rains, inclement weather, our doors are always open to any organization really, but it's always been a text for me or a call away. We open up our doors. The same thing with the Kia Girls. They perform at the Dominican Republic Festival. They perform at City Hall. It's an awesome organization, and also that's full circle. So the girls, it's more of a sisterhood that I observe when it comes to the Kia Girls, but also I hire them in the summer, so they become the staff. I have 3 Kia Girls on my staff right now, so they also it brings that feminine energy to increase our female engagement. We've had Fashion Night, which I'm a huge supporter of. So the staff at Central and PCTA was here. So my staff benefited from it. Other staff from other recreation centers benefited from here to just come in with their parents and have somebody just take the time out and go through the FAFSA with them. We always host our annual Easter egg hunt with Councilman Pedro Espinal. So that's always a hit here. Hopefully we have some good weather this year, and we hope to have it in the park, not this park, but Roger Williams Park at the entryway this year, just so it could be bigger and more kids, more families. We have a talent show every summer, and we do it in collaboration with the Roger Williams Daycare with Miss Phyllis. So that's always a good time. So our kids here, I let them take 100% creative control. And I think our parents appreciate it because, kids will be kids and kids are innocent. So I'm really strict about internet usage and cell phone usage during my summer, especially with my staff. So I think that gives the families a sense of yes, this could be a trusted facility. So when the kids have their talent show, they are able to be themselves 100%. So I create a very inclusive, safe space here at my rec center where they're able to be who they are. So the parents, they have the footage. That's why you won't never see the footage in any of these because I don't allow it. And then of course, Corey Brown's We Got Next League, which is hosted at the Met Basketball Court. It originally started here, and we're always the go-to if there's a rain out date. So we were the inception of Corey Brown's We Got Next League. It started here with Mr. Cedric, Kaisha Threats, who is the assistant principal at Del Sesto, and Corey Brown.
And you just did the girls' clinic here over spring break.
Yes.
For the schools as well, or no, February break, I'm sorry, yeah, February break, which was cool. So we hadn't done that before, while, school was on their break, so that was pretty cool to have Corey help out and collaborate with that. Center needs.
So, some of you were on the tour of the facility and seeing some of the things that you can see in this room. We have a plethora of leaks in the ceilings, but these drop ceilings were replaced 2 years ago to identify where the leaks are, so these are where the leaks are. The HVAC being replaced, I believe it's been on the docket, I've seen it on the docket at some of the city council meetings as well. We've
Your
been
word
open
proof,
over,
yeah.
yeah, over 25 years, so it has to be replaced because in the wintertime, it just breaks and we can't have kids, like, this is a safe space being cold. The padding in the gym, just due to rodent issues, those are the original padding when we were first open, that's why the colors don't match us, because those are the original pads from when we first opened.
So did you say eroding issues or
Rodent, like.
Oh, okay,
mice,
gotcha. A
So.
rodent issues like they,
Mhm.
they on the padding, they,
So some of the things definitely were rodent inflicted, like some of the bite marks and stuff within the pads, because they're so old. And they are attracted to something like that, like the foam and stuff that's in them, but they're so old. And some of them just falling off the walls. When I first became a director, my hope was, and still is, so it's not really a hope, it's a goal, because it has to get done in order for us to compete with other cities. We need to have tech in this rec center, to make it more of an innovative space. We have to have technology. And right now, we don't have computers, so it limits what the kids can do. Most of the kids in the city of Providence, they have Chromebooks, or their Chromebooks are left inside the school. So if they have homework, most of it is either online or IXL. We should be able to assist with that, but right now, we're very limited on what we can do because we don't have tech. As far as the lockers and the hallways, that was something that was included in the budget, I believe in 2018. Not sure what happened, but we were supposed to have the lockers, put inside the hallways, not a plethora of lockers, but just a good amount so that kids feel like they can lock up their stuff, to provide some locks so that they can keep their things safe while they're here. And then last but not least, basketball hoops just need to be serviced. If you could tell, we have 2 breaker rooms, so got some hoopers that like to dunk, those are fine, but they still need to be serviced, like some of the padding comes off. And then the side hoops, we have mechanisms where we're supposed to be able to click where they can go up.
Yeah.
So we're able to push our bleachers in to create more space for the kids, or we have a huge soccer rental. You should be able to push those bleachers in to create more space, but sometimes those hinder, but they're not working to be pushed in a way.
so Stephen, maybe you can answer this, but where are all of these things that have been identified on the list for repair or, I mean, I just have to say on record, the rodent issue, you're the first director that has mentioned it to this committee, and so that's something I definitely wanna talk about for a second and address and be sure that there is a policy with Big Blue Bug or whoever it is the city contracts with to address that, because that is unacceptable. I'm not sure if it's a previous issue or if it is
So
a new
it's the-
issue or existing.
so since Stephen Grace has been director, it has gotten better. I forget the name of the organization that we go through, but he's pretty hands-on with coming whenever like we spot something, because I get scared a lot pretty easily when it comes to the rodents. The biggest issue is the school. So if the school is not addressing
Yeah.
the mice, and we're only, so the mice will get addressed over here, but they're running over to the school and then they're coming back over here.
I mean, that obviously makes sense. They don't know the difference boundaries between a rec center and a
Yeah.
school, so. Councilwoman?
It's not only the school, the recreation here. For example, in here in registration, I working for 7 years. It have a lot of, because the trash, the food, the trash, is not too far, it's just very close.
Mhm.
So we always have a much, well, everybody, one of the teachers said, what? I said, it's running for the food.
Yeah.
Like,
I
It
get
was- it was-
scared.
for everybody, but it's, scary. And then I said, wait a minute, give me hand that, so I take it one thing and kill it. It's just-
So I'm assuming, Stephen, maybe
There
you
you
can
have
talk about
it,
this,
have
but
it.
what is
It's going
the,
on.
what's the department's policies on our, or maybe public properties are best to answer this, but what is the policies that we have for our centers for rodent control?
We do have a vendor that does it, right? So they do pest control. And
Not, but on a regular routine basis, not
Yeah.
like one-offs, right?
yeah, yeah, on a regular routine basis. I think it's like an issue, I don't know, I'm not gonna say it's not solvable, but it's
I
an
mean, it's
issue.
definitely a citywide.
Yeah, it's not something that like, I know that it's just gonna be solved with, you know, I'm not the expert, but it's just, you can manage it and contain it, but
Yeah.
it'll almost never go away, given like, you know, just the type of buildings they're in
Yeah,
and
they're
stuff
big
like that.
spaces, obviously, there's food around and
Yeah.
comes on the floor and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I want to be sure that, because we just never had this conversation before, I do want to be sure that we have a policies in all of our buildings where they can routinely, whether that's once a month, twice a month, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Put down bait stations and address the issue to the extent that we can.
Yeah, they're everywhere. It's like, well, you know, they're over there. So like, we have them, and it's something that we closely monitor. What Nasha was really talking about was one of the things we identified is like even the schedule that the rec was on in the school. It was two different vendors, right? And so one of the things that we did was we got together and we attempt to make sure that they're on the same schedule, because it's natural. Oh, you're doing it this month? I'm just gonna go over there. And then, oh, you guys are doing that now? I'm gonna come back over here.
So now it's coordinated on the same.
Yes, we attempt to do that. And so what kind of goes into
Like
that
different
is,
vendors? Or the school
yeah,
department use
so
one
yes, they
vendor
have
and then
different
the-
vendors. Yeah, so what happens is, the school department had Aramark, right? And then they switched to ABM, but
Yeah.
even like when I was addressing it and we were addressing it with the Aramark situation, took a little bit of time to get on the schedule. Then ABM comes in, different vendors, different folks that are in charge. There's been a lot of turnover for the operation side for PPSD, so we've kind of had to have the conversation a few more times, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
To make sure that everyone's on the same page, but we generally know what works better. The consistency and being on the same page, so the communication that Nasha's talking about, which I gotta commend her for. There's situations that happen in here that I don't even have to address anymore, because now she's brought herself to the point where she knows who the players are and who to contact. So we're managing it as, you know, best we can,
Yeah,
you know, to our ability, but it's not like it's not being addressed, so I don't want it to, like, we definitely have, a vendor that takes care of that and is available whenever we ask.
okay. And then the rest of the items that are on there, Stephen, just so what out of those items are currently on the, you know, the city improvement? Public, CIP plan and what's- I know some of
Everything but the
computers and
lockers.
whatnot are different, but I'm talking about like HVAC, I know we mentioned that's
Yeah.
being worked on. And then, and the other thing that I really noticed when we were walking around is the leak issues.
Yes.
And so where's the roof in this?
So
facility?
everything but the lockers is being addressed.
Okay,
The leaks in the ceiling in the gym are greater issues, right? So that's a little bit more complicated because it is a school and a rec, so it's a little more complicated to do that, just like with the parking lot. I think I've mentioned, I don't know if you guys heard it, but like there is an issue with how the ground slopes and the pavement and the way it is out here that causes water to go into the gym. There's poor drainage issues on the
Yeah.
other side, and that's a
Seems like they
known
might not
issue.
have enough downspouts on the roof. too.
Yeah, so like that's something that they know about, and they've had, you know, people come and kind of survey the land, so to speak, and see what fixes are gonna need to be done. So it's part of a plan that's gonna be implemented. It was just it wasn't as simple as just water coming down from the roof. There's a lot of other issues just with the ground itself. So they're looking to address that too. HVAC though is gonna be happening. We know that. We've seen that on the docket. The padding in the gym is getting addressed. Your bleachers too, correct? Yeah, the bleachers are getting addressed, so those are the things that have already gone through. The lockers, like I said, is the only thing that's like not currently on our radar.
Yeah,
But I think, you know, it's something that we talk with like public property about, like other school closings. Are there lockers available in other places that we can get over here? So that's something
Yeah.
that we try to see if we can do.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at like our public facilities, you know, obviously, when there are roof issues, it continues to lead to really bad other issues. So getting that addressed sooner rather than later is, you know, obviously critical, because when things start leaking in, you get a lot of other issues that happen. And it seems like I actually, you know, stepped outside to take a look at the downspouts and whatnot. I'm not a general contractor and expert in this world, but my house has 2 downspouts on it in the front, and that's you know, probably from that wall to
Right.
a little bit further beyond that one,
Yeah.
and we only have 3 out
Yeah.
here with a massive roof coming down, so.
And some of these being flat roofs, right? So like, it becomes an issue, you know, in and of itself, so.
Yeah.
So they look at solutions for, you know, for roofs that can withstand that and help out with that, so.
Yeah.
Like, we're going through that at Elmwood Community Center, Zucolo just got done, Davy Lopes is gonna get theirs done, so we have a few of them that are gonna, you know.
All right.
definitely.
And this group should get computers this year, is that the plan?
Oh, so the technology portion of it is gonna be done through more than likely a grant. So addressing a couple of rec centers and not just one. So we're looking into that now. It's just like when we can make the purchase to be able to do it.
Yeah, I may just have to say, in general, with all of the rec centers we've been to, the technology's been a little bit, there's some that have, seems like much like older computers, and some that
Yeah.
don't really have any, or it's like a small room, or looks like computers once were, and it's kind of spotty, but we've heard that pretty consistently from every center we've been to. That like after school, like homework type of stuff, it's kind of hard for them to do without that equipment, so maybe we'll make a bigger conversation topic about that at one point, about the digital needs of the centers, but it's been pretty consistent in all the places that we've toured. So maybe that's one area as we get into the next budget discussions that we might want to push for at some point too. And then I know there was just a quick brief slide on spring sports.
Oh, sorry.
And then we do have to move on. So we would go through that quick, Nasha, and then we'll have to move on to the next agenda item.
Oh, yeah. We're restarting our soccer league, so we have a department-wide soccer league, but I also host, soccer here on Tuesdays for our littles who are interested,
Nice.
so our kids get to participate for free, so it's free of charge. Just to learn, just to get them ready for if their parents, you know, wanna put them in a soccer league, whether it's recreation or the other soccer leagues like Moreno Park that are throughout the city.
Yeah.
They'll have some skills. And then me,
Are we getting them to sign up for the rec league as well?
absolutely, we push
Great
for
league.
it.
Good, okay,
So a lot of my basketball players, they're already registered
good.
for the recreation soccer league. I love a good
Got a priority for the
mystery.
board, by the way, is to expand.
Oh, for
the sports
soccer,
program.
absolutely.
So good.
I stand behind it. I think recreation's bigger than just basketball. We should be
Yeah.
doing everything. Volleyball, like, you know, just putting that out there, volleyball, especially here. We have a tremendous population for volleyball, especially the girls that come from JSEC, and, you know, they influence the other girls that come here,
I know
so.
Vincent Brown is starting one up. Do you have the attachments in the gym?
No,
for the
I
poles?
want them,
Yeah.
no, I want them. So I'm implementing an escape room. Those are things that I like to do. I like to do mystery, clues, stuff with the kids just to get their critical thinking skills up. Dodgeball, for the middle school and up. Kickball, more so inside because they are going to, I believe, break ground pretty soon over here to renovate the park, so we'll be inside. Intramural basketball league, so the in-between of recreation, rec league finishing, and then between the summertime before the Corey Brown Summer League starts, we'll have an intramural basketball league just to keep the kids off the streets, interested, but structured. And usually when I do the intramural league, I can have a kid as young as 7 years old to a kid who is 17 on one basketball team, just to make it fun. Cause the kids, they always look up to the big kids, so it gives them a chance to interact but have fun in a structured manner. And then restarting our mentorship programs. Now that the weather's getting hot, that's when typically in low income communities, that's when the violence goes up. So we gotta kind of create more opportunities so that they can stay inside of our recs, but also making sure that they're safe and that they have somebody to connect with regardless of what's going on out there in the community.
So I have a question. What percentage, I commend you on all your girls program, what percentage do you think of the kids that come in are girls versus boys? Like, and, you know, just because everyone else seems to be struggling and you're doing really well with that, like, I wonder how we can implement some of these things across the whole.
27.68%. I'm sorry. Natasha.
Oh.
I just know the answer, so it's, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
that compared to the other groups that are 90,
Yeah.
10 or something, is there a thought?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like.
So it's lower than that on
Yeah.
average, in the recs. So Nasha's been doing a good job. The way we're able to get this number is that we're building our membership program.
Yeah.
So it's based on a subset, as we're asking them and their goals to increase memberships are actually signed up in our system. So she has 224 signed up, and that's the demographic based on that number there. So we're increasing our membership just so we can kind of figure that out and see what happens across the city.
I think generally it's probably easier when there's a school attached to an after-school program.
Yeah.
Not to say that a lot of these best practices can be used in centers that don't have schools attached to them, but I think the after-school program is probably a big one about getting more kids in the door.
And like some of the things that I do, because you asked about, well, what can other places do? When I first came back to recreation, I had a conversation with the director. I'm like, you know, how can we retain the kids from summer camp to keep them year round? Because if you look at the numbers in all of our summer camps, you will see there's probably more girls than boys in our summer camp versus during the academic school year. So if we work on kind of retaining those kids to keep them in the rec centers, that will also help out with the female engagement and bringing that number up. And then also just, you know, relationship building. So a lot of the boys that come here, they have to babysit. So you want to come to rec, bring the kids that you babysit, which is usually a baby sister or a baby brother. So it keeps the family, you know, inside recreation and growing those connections.
It's great.
Any other questions for Nasha before we move on to some of the budget issues we want to discuss? I want to say thank you again for all that you do. This was an amazing presentation, and I think there's a lot to learn from your center. You know, I know Stephen is doing a great job of getting all you guys together and your peer group and your colleagues together to kind of learn from each other. And I think that there's certainly a lot to be learned here. So we commend you on your accomplishments, keep up the great work, and really thank you again for all you do every day. I'm sorry, Counselor.
I want to say thank you because I have a very good time with my daughter here when I have the girl club. They have a very creative, you know, the table you have to create something, so I really love it and I enjoy. Thank you so much.
Always a fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nasha.
I'm out of here, and Steven just text me if you need anything, because I gotta go on second.
Thank you, Nasha. All right, now we can move on to the fun stuff. Budget. So two things we want to talk about today. One is the current budget for fiscal year 25, how we're doing on our budget versus what was proposed versus where we currently are. I also know, Stephen, that there were some directives given from the administration about hiring freezes and whatnot, and so how that impacts, you know, sort of our day-to-day operation, our current budget. And then it's a separate agenda item, but I think it kind of leads right into what I wanted to start to talk about, and Stephen is not going to give us a presentation tonight on, you know, everything he has presented or proposed in his budget as an initial starting point. But I think what I wanted to do is talk about us in general together, some of the, you know, 3, 4, 5 sort of priority areas they want to focus on. Now, with that said, I think that we have all seen the news around, you know, the settlement that happened with the schools. You know, the council members can talk about this probably more than I can right now, but it seems that it's going to be a pretty tight budget year. So when we have this conversation, I don't think we can go big pie in the sky, but I do want to focus around some of the areas that we can use existing resources to maybe do a little bit better. And then focus on some of the priority areas that we've talked about as a group. Staying within our means, obviously, within this budget cycle, but all that is to say, I understand the budget woes, but at the same time, it's not a reason why we shouldn't be thinking bigger and better about how we can improve things and efficiencies in the department. So that's kind of where I want to go today on those two topics. So maybe we'll start off, Stephen, if you can give us a brief overview of sort of the FY25 budget as proposed and where we are now, and give us a brief overview on that.
Yeah, so, as you know, we have two different budgets in recreations. We have our regular, our general, and then we have our seasonal or temporary staff. So our regular account, at about $3.5 million, we call it the 601. And I'm gonna go through kind of like what it's broken down into. So this is all public knowledge. It's been communicated more with a lot more efficiency recently to go on the website to see this stuff. Our program expense is generally what that means is that's what we use for programming. A lot of the stuff you'll see in there is what's responsible for like how we put on our summer camps, any partners that we work with that are providing services during some of our peak times come out of our program expense. And generally, we try to leave a significant amount of money in that because we have to order for summer again before the FY26 budget hits. So
you spend most of your money on that item towards the end of the.
Yeah, so you're gonna notice as we get closer to July 1, this is gonna deplete significantly to get ready for what it costs us to operate summer. We did have a
budget, refresh my memory, was increased by a very small amount in the last budget, is that right?
just about 50K, and it was to help us out with a couple of new programs that we were running. We did bowling and we did
50K is a 50% increase.
and summer basketball. Well, it was for two specific programs, it's really about 30.
Yeah.
Okay, but it helped us out with bowling and it helped us out with night basketball. So generally, you're gonna see us kind of help out with like soccer and some other programs to some of the director's points.
So that is the one line item, guys, I think that we need to hold the line on, or hold the line on, but $50,000 to that line item, which is not a lot of money in the grand scheme of a budget thing, of our city budget, goes a very long way, as we see. Towards really expanding some of these programs. So we'll talk about that and I guess our priorities, but that's one area I think one of our priorities, hold the line on or increase by a very small amount, goes a really long way.
Yeah, and I would say yes, but thinking about what may happen in a budget where that's either level decreases or something like that. I would probably say that yes, but personnel as well, like either or, because you can make partnerships and do this and have people to be able to manage and run those partnerships, or you can bring people on with more programming expense to kind of do those things for you. So
Yeah.
it'll balance out somewhere. So it just really depends on what
Good point.
like what you see and what you need. I think we can have the flexibility, or should, to be able to do both. Maintenance and service is kind of boring, but it really is what it says. Like it's our maintenance and services. Things that come out of this budget, or have been. So we just had a recent correction. Our trash removal was hitting this line up until recently. So you're gonna see some of this actually interestingly go up and hit another account because we have a rubbish removal. But what ends up happening is towards the end of like a basketball season, we've had so many more people in the facilities. And as it quiets down a little bit for spring, we notice that there's a lot of things that we have to replace, that we have to just upgrade in some of the centers. And so we use some of that maintenance and service line to do that. It's also used for any storage, mobile storage, or projects that we have that are recreation centered. So for example, we have to clean out our main office, and so we have to get some storage. We have to clean out some of the closets that we've been storing stuff in because they're like fire code violations. They're either in electrical closets or some other closets where it's a violation. So this is the line item that we kind of saved to be able to do that for any compliance, maintenance, and service issues. Our miscellaneous expense, this is gonna be a no-no, going forward, like, we have to define that a little bit more, because Councilman Sanchez doesn't like miscellaneous expenses.
We don't like miscellaneous.
Except in the rec department.
Yeah, so this is actually really helpful for us because there are some things that we're gonna do that I don't even know about yet. There's gonna be some expenses that I can't necessarily categorize, but we're gonna do our best. So we have gone into our miscellaneous expense. Last year we did it, and this year we'll try to be more detailed. But like last week, we're doing more community service and engagement events. So we had 200 kids at the Elmwood Community Center. And I had to go and buy these really kind of interesting rugs that absorb water because it was a slip and slide in the lobby. And it was like downpouring that day. Typically, we wouldn't have that issue because we wouldn't, one, be open at that time, and two, have that many people in a recreation center at one time. And it's just something I could not even prepare for. So our miscellaneous expense helps us out with situations like that. Other things that are in here, like
So I'm sorry, so just going back on that one to the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
I guess for something like that, Councilman, how would you want them to, because you need sort of you do need.
Yeah, no, I think,
Flexible.
I think it's more like generally speaking, I think, you know, the rec department's always done a decent job on, you know, presenting and describing it. There's other departments where it's like 40% of the budget is just miscellaneous.
Yeah.
You ask for a breakdown.
yeah, it's not.
So you're giving the rec department pass, is what you're saying.
No, I think, you know, he can categorize it into like a janitorial budget, but you know, I think.
Well, no, we did. So like what you're like, so it is broken down. And so in this expense, we have like our printing and like Rico line item, but we put that in there so we know. There's other things in here that's we order our trophies through here. A lot of times miscellaneous expense. And we have other
Rules of the trade.
yeah, so it's that's generally what it's in, but it's not like you know, I know when they see it, everyone's like slush fund. No, it's a account that it's just very various items that we don't need a huge line.
We have a slush fund in the recreation department. I think we'd all be in a much.
Next is stationery. That's like our WB Mason and stuff for the office and things that we need. Generally paper and pens, pencils, stuff to just operate. So
I'm sorry, and I'm supposed, did you raise your hand earlier? Were you trying to say something?
Oh, if you wanted to call it a contingency account.
is that better?
instead of
I think it's administration as much as the finance committee that is trying to.
miscellaneous. Arose by any other name.
Yeah, I like contingency. But stationery is very much that, so you'll see, like I said, a lot of WB Mason and other things that are just for generally operating an office and some of the centers. Med and chem supplies, that's just very simple, that's the chlorine, that's all that is, for the pools. There's nothing more, nothing
Wow.
less. It just had,
For chlorine.
Yeah.
oh, it's more. Yeah, I mean, it was more last year, we got it down, and we're kind of sharing with public property a little bit of the expense as well, but that's generally what it was. We switched to this new, I guess, more efficient chlorine pellet, so that's where we had to create a line item for it. That was
Saltwater systems.
Yeah, right. Miscellaneous expense, no. But that's all that is, so it's nothing else hits that line item. The next thing is food. We do a lot to support the city council events, recreation events, primarily in the summer. We also like if there's like smaller events that you know we're hosting for the community, we'll help out with that. So that's generally what it's used for. We purchase food for community events and recreation events. Very simple there. Housekeeping and supplies. So this is basically, we have a city vendor, it's Banner Systems. For all the toiletries, paper towels, soap, like that type of thing, so.
But that line item does not include the maintenance folks who are coming into the centers once every other week.
No,
Right.
that actually hits public property.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're on their payroll, but they use our supplies.
Got it.
So like they'll actually come to our center, use the
So they
supplies
keep
and then go out,
supplies
yeah.
in a certain
Mhm.
place, yeah.
So we wrote it into ours, so. And then rubbish removal, so. This was, I hated this thing like 2 years ago, but we had to start paying for trash removal ourselves, so. This is the line item for it.
Seems like kind of a low number for it, though.
It is, we actually have to do a change order, cause we don't know, like, we never
Yeah.
had to pay for it, so like, it was. Based on what the cost was anticipated, we used to have Miga and now we have Greenview, but we've had some changing needs. In rec centers, so that's kind of the problem that we have to look at is. Every time somebody asks us to do more. It's gonna affect a lot of different line items. So more people means more trash and more events means more trash, and so we've had to account switch from like. Trash bins to dumpsters or, so on and so forth. So it's just taking a look at that and just seeing where we are and, but we actually do ask the directors at the end of each year and especially before summer. What that looks like for them and what they actually need, and they do a pretty good job of adjusting and letting us know. And then this kind of gets into our seasonal. So our seasonal account is all the temporary staff for recreation.
I'm sorry, Steve, just before we get into that, so
Yeah.
going back to the 601.
Yep.
You're projected to come in on budget, under budget? a little
Well, we've been on
over?
an essential spend.
Yeah.
So that's what's really gonna be difficult for us, like, for me to even project. We just haven't been spending a lot of money. Because of what you mentioned earlier, the settlement, so the entire city's been on an essential spend, so there's some things that we just haven't purchased. And we've been waiting to, so this is probably a little bit higher, or
I mean,
less
I
money
don't
than
go
we're
on the
spending.
record and say and put it just here. Everybody has their own opinions about things with the school department settlement, but. I wrote an op-ed about this, but like. The amount of money that we have agreed to pay the school affects every other aspect of what goes on in the city. And here is a perfect example of. In my mind, us putting more money into the school system. Which has half of the city budget, I think, goes to the school departments already. And we're scrimming and saving every last dollar we can over here to have good programming, which also impacts our kids in such a big way. And so, general public that's listening to this, I want to go on the record and say that like. The amount of money we're giving to our schools, let's hope that our schools really come through and actually have some accountability and a plan. To spend that money and to get results from it, because these are the types of things that go away. When we don't have enough money to do a better job in our rec department. We do a fine job off of the shoestring budget that we're on, but what we could do with. $500,000 more or $1 million more would be substantial. So. Obviously, I support our schools. I think we all do as a board, but I think this is a perfect example of the types of things that we. Have to do a hiring freeze on now to support our kids because the money has gone to the school department, so.
Yeah, I mean, it does, right? Like I think I have 3 vacant positions. And when I got the job, back in January 2023, I wrote specific goals that we were going to, achieve, and 2 of those positions were vital to it, right? And so you gotta pivot, you gotta obviously, work with what you have. But that's just the way like people don't, you don't necessarily see it right up front. Where it's going to affect, some of the things that we do, so. And even one of the people, to improve the relationship with the schools, right? Written into their job description, so it's kind of one of those things that we know we're looking to address, but it's difficult and. But we're gonna do what we do, right? We're gonna make it happen. So it's, unfortunately, I think that's kind of difficult too, is like, if you're used to just making it happen, then that kind of goes, it kind of hurts you as well, right? Because you can always find a way.
Sorry, guys, I gotta take off. Thank you.
Thanks, Council.
All right.
Seasonal account.
So seasonal count, is less, interesting. It really is just the temporary salaries. So realistically, like we spend the majority of it in the summer. And what you're gonna see two different numbers. So if you see this, the beginning, right, and then you look at this, the
Yeah.
1.8, we did have a significant contribution from ARPA funding that went into the account. And so that's what you're seeing in the difference. And so, we were fortunate to have that over the last couple of years, but that
Goes away.
contribution will be going away. So we'll be at the 1.8 and we'll have to manage it a lot tighter.
What are the
this
types of
year.
things that we're gonna have to sacrifice because we don't have those dollars?
What we started doing was we started looking into a more trained and qualified temporary salary worker. Doing things with data and doing things with our like professional development and someone that so for example, I have someone that is doing our data. So when I was able to give you that answer with the 27%, that's a temporary worker that is doing some things with data for us. So like things like that would go away. We have some high skilled individuals that would be helping out with community engagement, or someone on the staff to manage like programs like a meals program where there's a lot of paperwork and data that we have to submit to make sure that it's getting reported correctly. So really more of our highly skilled labor would immediately be affected than you think about like the recreation center operation. So there's a director and assistant director. It would make it more difficult to have more staff on during our spring and fall seasons. Where we're attempting to have more programming because that was seen as like our down seasons before, and we didn't want to call them that anymore. And so it would affect the amount of programming that we're able to do. And sometimes with just simple math, if we want 70 kids in here, we have to have the appropriate amount of staff, right? So if we want to get 75 to 80 on a daily basis, then you have to have the numbers to accommodate for it. Typically like a 1 to 15 ratio. And so that becomes difficult. So again, most of this is in the summer and we're gonna take a look at like what that looks like going into obviously next year's budget and how we have to prepare.
Are you concerned about your ability to meet the needs of the city with that cut?
I'm concerned in a way, so yes, I'm always concerned, because it's an unknown, if that makes sense. So I don't know like what it's going to be, and I don't really have a lot of control over it either. So that's what concerns me, is the lack of either awareness or control that I would have over what's gonna happen with the budget. But it's not just us, right? I know we're here to talk about recreation, but it's gonna be a lot of decisions that have to be made for every single director in the city. So it's so I definitely understand. So I know we're gonna talk about like the budget priorities, and I'll kind of talk about that, like where my concern turns into action, I
Yeah.
guess, if that makes sense. So if it's cool to go into like
Yeah,
the
definitely,
budget
go for
priorities,
it.
so not much I can talk about with the new budget, obviously. A lot of unknown uncertainty for me. There's a lot of things that are on the table, as everyone in the public knows. But what I did was, I kind of put 4 priorities up here. Which one is a level budget, external funding, the temporary salary line, and then revenue generating, right? So I just want to talk to you guys about like what this means. So the bullet points are things that we're actually doing right now, that could potentially help us with this. So if a level budget is what we get, right, and if that would be cool. If we have to make a lot of cuts, obviously we want more money, we're going to advocate. But if we do get a level budget, some of the things that we're doing right now to be ready for that is our volunteer registration. So we started building our qualified volunteer base. So all 25 folks that are BCI checked and identified how and where they want to help. So we started doing that. We improved our systems and processes. So
I'll take a moment to say, if you're not signed up to volunteer for the rec department, take some time and sign up, everybody.
no, can't. I know you've seen them all in City Hall, right? The volunteers?
I
Yeah,
have seen
see?
them everywhere.
See? All right, good. All right. We improved a lot of our systems and processes, which leads into automation and use of technology. So, and if you think about the amount of time it takes to shuffle papers or carry things, this, that, and the third. So just simplifying and making those processes easier can lead to a more efficient process. Less personnel spent on that, chasing things down. So we've done a lot. We've created an entire intranet of resources. So, one person can get a lot done when it comes to paperwork and things of that nature. We're reviewing leagues and program logistics. What it looks like to scale down or just be more efficient with some of our leagues, different locations, rules, regulations, and how to stay competitive while still growing. And seasonal staff audit, right? Really taking a look at what it means to be on our seasonal staff. Do we, have more trained individuals that are able to do more, right? And so we've been doing that. The use of event manager to account for personnel costs, expense during rentals. So prior to now, we have a rental system where let's say it's on a Saturday or Sunday, and we're generally not open, we have to assign staff to it, and we eat the cost of that. And so we're gonna look to just alleviate that cost and putting it into the rental cost as well, just so that we're not eating up our seasonal staff with that, so we can get some contributions back into it. So we already have the mechanism to do it now. We introduced individual recreation center support funds to track revenue and expenses. So we're giving the ability to really see what rec centers bring in revenue, and then we can actually control the spending and have an idea of where we're spending each bit of that support fund based on an actual center need. And we'll know that it's going to a program or to a resource that we really need, and we'll be able to have the process and the mechanism to be able to help them do that. External funding, we talked about that. League and program sponsorship. We've gotten some sponsorships in the past. We're continuing to reach out and do that now. Collaboration with city and grant writers and city departments to fund programs and personnel. There's a lot of opportunity out there. So even some of the positions that I have, like I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to look into it now that I have the mechanism to do it. But there's a lot of funding out there to do great community engagement work, and we can fund programs and positions doing that.
Under this administration, the city grants is it under the mayor's policy director still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So Sheila still
Mhm.
takes the lead on those?
Yes. And then state and federal funding to support municipalities, right? There's a lot of money that's out there that can, help us do some things in the recreation centers.
Well, I don't know about that in the federal level anymore.
Well, some of it's already been allocated, so it's like, I don't know if you can, I guess. So the temporary salary line, we mentioned again, the staff audit and the professional development, but introducing the attendance data and tracking to accurately project staffing needs. So I have a report being generated right now because we're in the springtime and we're going to do the projections on what staffing that we need to make sure that we're going to, be within budget, but save where we can. We wouldn't have had the ability to necessarily do that in an effective way. Trends change, centers change, right? So we're doing that. And then last, revenue generating activity. So we've given each of our directors goals that are tied to those individual recreation center support funds. And so they're looking at ways that they can bring more revenue that'll hit their individual support funds that they can use that'll be outside of our general budget, right? So that's really the goal here. Fundraising events. We're actually planning, which all of you will be involved in because you're lovely, doing a Hall of Fame banquet for the recreation department. So Jackie Poulias, who you guys know and love, is actually working on planning that right now. So we're in the beginning stages of that. That'll be coming probably in the spring of 2026. Merchandise stores, to include apparel items and, food and beverage. So we're just at the finish line there. We have been working with finance, city controller's office, treasury to make sure that we are following the correct process. That's kind of why it takes a little bit of time. There's some things I even found out recently that I didn't even know 6 months ago, which is great. So being patient with this was actually the right idea. But we're looking to do a really cool program that hopefully I'll put on your radar in about a month, that we're gonna implement this in the summer. And then I mentioned the support funds, but the way that is really, really gonna be impactful is we have some great individuals that are running our rec centers and never knew how much they could contribute, just with time, energy, but also funding, right? There's some things that we can do to introduce to our constituents that are around recreation centers, just simple collaborations and understanding how to manage your own budget, makes these directors, you know, better at their jobs, but able to provide resources responsibly. So that's kind of what we're doing. So in the event that, you know, we're pinching pennies here, you know, we've kind of put some things in place that can potentially help us out. So those would be my priorities for.
Well, before I start, does anybody have any questions or?
I don't have a question, but I only say to the money. Because we need more money for more program, for more things to do. Because when I see only the recreation is more, you know, sport. A little art, it's not, you know, music or something else that we can implement to the kids. Or finances, workshop or something. And also for creating money, we can have a balance. And people can donate is some kind of money or something like that.
That was the
No.
one thing I was gonna say too.
Oh.
I agree, no, it's like, I think the Hall of Fame thing was a
Yeah.
great idea. You know, there's a lot of things you can do around that, like I had talked to you, Stephen, about doing like a citywide calendar fundraiser, like those are in a lot of the leagues now, right? You pay $10 for a calendar, you get a different prize every day. Maybe we can incorporate that into that event or something like that, but I think not just rec center specific focus, but also citywide. You know, get the tickets out there, sell them.
Yeah.
Raise people to come in and help with it. I agree, and if we're gonna be level funded this year, that's the ultimate goal, which I'm sure goal that is, but it seems what we're kind of stuck with, or in terms of, money's available. Then we have to do a better job of raising more money to continue on, I think, some of the priorities that we've talked about, which is expansion of programming, right? Like, if we're gonna expand the soccer league next year, to maybe go to a couple of different sites around the city. How much is that gonna cost? How
Right.
much do we have to raise?
Right.
Right, like, it's just finding ways to probably raise more money to do those types of things.
And, you know, the good thing is, and I hate this, because I know like. Me being me, it's not necessarily like the best way to go about it, because like I generally don't care. I said, I don't know if you guys remember that, like I said that like 2 years ago. Like I never looked at our budget and was like, that's gonna be the end all be all. Sometimes that's bad too, because you should be advocating for what you want. So I'm always like conflicted, like in, you know, inside, and I have to like stop myself, because I'll just be like, I'll just go find it. You know, so it's but sometimes that's what gives me the concern to answer the question is like, man, it's not 100% successful, right? I can't always, you know, land on something or get a windfall. So, but the good thing is that I'm not the only one asking anymore. I think when we were talking about a year and a half ago, it was me primarily like pushing that, you know, by myself. And now I have 11 and almost like up to like 18 as we get more people in their goals to be asking these questions around the city too. And so I think with that consistency and, you know, what we built in the mechanism for them to be able to accept donations and to be able to get funding and to be able to get sponsorships and, even the idea of hosting the gala, right? Like the Hall of Fame banquet, right? That's something that we have the capability and knowledge base and support to do now. So, you know, hopefully that stuff is gonna be effective as well.
I always say that myself. Why you have a building and not have any account? You know, for anything you have to fix it. So when you ask, it take a long way to fix it, the roof, long way. For example, here, because I worked here for many years and under the school departments, the address, simple address. Is this, you know, private, and we in the ocean, so it's not taking, you know, the way people, you know,
Yeah.
supposed to go. I have that problem for many years, because people say, this is the address, but I can't find it.
Yeah.
Because it's we in the front, it's on another street, we have to go around. So this is a one problem that we had to get, you know, more the information to the people.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Because I know I had that problem before when people has to go to this recreation. For the school, it's okay because the school, you know, having more front over there. But we are the front to the ocean, and also the registration, we have front to the ocean, so it's not
Yeah.
a part of it. And this building has to be everybody together.
Oh,
See?
So-
No, I did it.
Steve and I had a conversation about this.
Yeah, so I put for your GPS 325 Ocean, see?
That would have helped.
I
I just put in.
I got lucky.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is a problem. You are right.
I got lost.
So the one, see, if you go back to the other slide.
Yep.
So the one thing that I do want to point out that we have talked a lot about, obviously, is there's youth programs, the programming in general, but I don't see anything in there for senior programming. And I know, you know, we have a Department of Senior Services, obviously, one of the goals that we have talked about is, while we want to obviously do our very best for our kids, how can we, you know, do more senior programming too, and start getting some of our senior citizens in here to work with the kids, to have access to these spaces maybe during the day. And there's probably ways to think about that more creatively that might not cost a lot of money. You know, and so, you know, I do want to add that in there as a potential goal for this year, budget goal. And again, whether it's budget neutral or we can use existing resources or appoint like volunteer senior leaders in every rec department, maybe that's one goal you can put down for the rec center directors, is to identify, you know, a volunteer senior citizens captain or something like that, or something like that. So at least there's a point of contact, and maybe somebody who's out there in the community who's talking about, you know, I have access to this center. It's a trusted person. I have access to the center during the day. I can open it up. We can come play bingo or do crocheting or,
Domino.
and you know, whatever it is that we can do, because these buildings are, you know, pretty much dark during the day. They're not connected to a school. I'm not sure about this one in particular. But a lot of them are dark, dark during the day.
Yes.
So I don't know. I mean, you know, again, I'm not sure how we give access to buildings. It's probably a little bit of a tricky situation there, how that happens. And again, it probably could be budget neutral, maybe just a little bit money put towards it. And I don't know, but I would like to see that included in there. And again, I know we have our Department of Senior Services through Sue Robio, but she's not in these centers every day. And these are really, you know, community spaces. So maybe we engage her a little bit more to help work on that too. But that's one.
The problem for the senior, because I work in for many years, because I have a lot of experience for the. The problem for the senior is that you have to pick it up and bring it back. So I know we have used the ban, and you know, it has to be safety, all the procedures, because people say, oh, they get more time. So that's what Rubio doing, you know, the mayor day, because
Yeah.
big, this is the one. Another thing, that we have a different center for the, you know, people have to pay, so the government will have to pay for that, so we have to get it from budget, CNA, because of the CNA, because, you know, it's all, you know, gate or whatever the people have, and also the food. Cause not eat the food, kids, the kids eating any junk, cause
Yeah.
the person
my-
can have a die or something. So it has
Yeah.
to be creating a masterpiece, because who do this, who do that,
Yeah.
and how much you has in your budgets.
Yeah,
Because not the space we have it,
yeah,
but we have to get it all the prestige. And how many people it can be in one side, for example, on this side,
yeah,
Yeah,
and maybe we just start off small though and just try and do
Yes.
something. on
So play the
volunteer basis
domino,
where
play
we don't-
bingos,
where we
bingo
don't
day.
have those types of, it doesn't have to be around a lunchtime, it can be at like 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the
Yes.
morning and. We can do our best to help people carpool and things like that. But probably, my point is we think creatively about it being budget neutral and start off maybe a little bit smaller, but I think it's one point that. You might want to talk about.
For me, it can be 2 day, for example, started, not every day. And we had, bingo days,
Yeah.
so we can have the bingo, people come together. That's what I do when I'm working with the center.
Yeah.
So I do the bingo day, a lot of people
Yeah,
that day, because
Yeah.
people want to play, want to make a
Yeah.
little money, like that. So.
can't gamble on our recreation.
Yeah. Well, that's the way
Yeah.
people can get out, is
Yeah.
you have to have some,
Right,
point to get there.
yeah.
That's the.
Anyway, that's one area maybe we can add to priorities.
Well, I guess to be fair, I didn't put any program particularly on
Yeah.
this because it was a budget thing, but. That is something we're working on. We have 2 age-friendly task force meetings this week. Right, so like that's something that we're actively involved in. And to the councilwoman's point, it is difficult, like with transportation, but in terms of like. Programs that happen during the day being budget neutral, it's impossible. Because we have a staff that's open, that works from 3 to 7. And so,
No, I know, but I guess my point is, I don't know what the protocols are in the city to have like. Maybe a trusted senior citizen who's a community member and goes through a screening process, but is just purely a volunteer that wants to come and open. This community room up for a group of like 20 people who want to come and. Socialize. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud a little bit, but there's. I'm assuming there are rec centers across the state that, like in other municipalities that. Have volunteers who are trusted volunteers. They go through some sort of screening process. You don't have to necessarily pay them, but they want to volunteer to bring a group of their friends in to. I don't know, do whatever they need to do. I don't know, just people thought of it. Again, I have no idea what the city protocols are. But
we'll ask the question, because the good thing about the task force is that. There's a lot of departments on it, that can ask questions like that too, just kind of
Yeah.
understand where we can do that.
um,
My focus will be intergenerational. I want to get. Our younger kids with our seniors together to do, so that's kind of what my challenge is,
yeah,
and looking at how we can do that.
Obviously the capital repairs, I know it's not in your budget per se, but. We're in a building now that has a lot of roof issues, it seems like, and so. Obviously, that needs to continue to be a priority, I think, and continuous funding.
Yeah,
Mechanism.
yeah, there's there's a lot. You're gonna see a report coming out pretty soon. As well as like the documentation of what has been done. So each of these projects that's getting done in recreation center. So for example, we were at Agliosi the other day. And we're taking like the before and after and putting together a whole, almost like a documentary of like. What has been done in the recreation center. So that's something that we're looking forward to. And we're doing that in collaboration with the mayor's comms team to do that. So you're gonna see a lot of what has been invested in and what we got out of it. When these projects are starting to come to an end. Zucolo's finishing pretty soon. And remember, we got the Jocelyn and Davy
What was
Lowe.
that? Refresh my memory on whether, is that all ARPA money or that's just continuous funds and city money?
Yeah.
From coming in.
So there's no ARPA money generally for Well, there was a little bit, but it's capital improvement,
Yeah.
and, funding and stuff like that. And then we have the CFP, which is at Jocelyn, Davy Lopes and Elmwood Community Center. And the council people that have invested their net funding in like CDG. So like there's been a lot that has gone into a combination of funding for a lot of the centers. So that's gonna be all outlined and when the project managers are done getting all their information together, it's gonna be pretty cool. So it's been a lot.
But I forget, and maybe Madam Clerk, you might be able to help answer this, but do we? Is there often a bond question for city buildings in general? Do we bond on that? Is that a question on the ballot?
Doesn't sound familiar.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
remember. The schools obviously
schools
are.
yeah,
one,
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
but we've never done like a city buildings.
I mean. We're fixing up City Hall for the first time in a long
Yeah,
time.
That wasn't on the ballot. Was
It
it?
was not on the ballot,
Right.
no, no. Nothing for facilities.
Yeah,
It's only for school, when I see it,
Yeah.
only for the school.
right.
I never see for the city or the regional
Yeah.
center. Because I worked it for many years when before and then I read that,
Mhm.
I never see that.
Yeah,
And I
That's when
did
it's surprised.
explain to you in the beginning, there is that clause in any TSA. For a certain percentage to be put into the Parks and Rec Fund, which is for bricks and mortar, but I don't know when that fund will be ready to actually be used to fix brick and mortar buildings, only for rec centers.
only for rec centers.
Yeah,
So it's not
well,
parks.
it could be Parks and Rec, but I thought
Is
it
there a
was just
specific delineation in that between like how much has to go to parks and how much has to go to rec? Or
not sure. I can talk to, the TSA compliance monitor and try to get some more information about that and share it with you.
you know anything about that, Stephen? Have you seen,
No.
started seeing anything? from
I
that?
haven't started seeing anything on it.
Yeah, that would be great, actually, if you get
Yeah.
more information on that, that'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, all my conversations when it comes to that are about schools. Yeah, general, yeah, just like everyone else said, yeah.
Well, I think this is a good sort of initial conversation around budget. I think our next meeting, we'll want to talk about it again. I think the mayor's budget address is typically in April.
April 13th.
April 13th scheduled for, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, probably we'll want to meet again before the mayor's budget address. I think we'll probably have a more solid idea as to maybe some of the directions that we're going in, and then obviously we'll have a full budget in front of us when the mayor's budget gets.
Sorry,
submitted.
April 16th.
April.
Yeah, the 13th is a Sunday.
Yeah.
Who wants to work on a Sunday?
So, I don't know, Jenna, do you have anything else you want to add or things you're thinking about?
No, I think, like you said, just making sure the budget's at least level, right? I think the worst case scenario is we have to turn kids away because we can't provide the staff for them. I'm hoping that, that doesn't ever come to that and we have ways to work through that.
Councilwoman, anything else like that?
It's good to have so many good ideas, but for me, when I have an idea, myself, so I write it down, I put in the day, and when I looking, is I need this, how many bottle of water I need, so I'm looking for a bottle of water, and how much it costs, and where I knock the door to do what I need to do. And for me, to see that recreation, que we don't have the money, que we know how to do, we know how this, we know how that, and have a beautiful space, and not really how to use. Only, for the porch and this, and so it's like minimum. For example, in my recreation, we don't have school clothes. So we have to go there and say, hey, we have this and this and this. That's right, when I see the graph, they say, oh, this is very low, because we don't have a school for this. So we have to grab it for different
Yeah.
particular area to go there. And now, because the new administration, and now I want to say thank you. So we see that we improvement more of the recreation
Yeah.
issues that we have it before. So for example, right now it's closed because in my recreation, because we're doing the floor. How many years we're not doing the floor? How many years we're not putting one door and one closing? So it's taking, a lot of time to go forward to do what we need to do. For me, my suggestion for you, can we have some budgets specific for any issue, for miscellaneous, for something that we can, address out. We don't have to wait.
You're gonna talk to your council colleagues about miscellaneous.
The contingency.
As an emergency, when you have emergency, you have to have
Yeah,
something.
you should be able to fix that.
Well,
Yeah, we have.
I think you
That's
hit
that's all my comment,
Yeah.
like.
I think you did hit the nail on the head, though, that we are grateful that Steven's doing a phenomenal job. I think it really brought the department, professionalized it in a way that we hadn't seen in a very long time. Putting data around things and really getting things down in the center. So hats off to you as always, Director Grace.
And thank you for the sofa.
Oh, yeah, I know. I got it. It looks nice too, right?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it looks very nice.
Oh, my God, the door.
Yeah.
Oh, look at it. Thank you so much.
And I think on that note, there is no public here, so I'm not sure we have to open up a public comment, but if you would like to make additional comments, please do so. But on that note, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Hi.
All right, that concludes our meeting